10,000 feet down in the ocean, in a place sunlight has never touched, there's a dead whale just lying there in the dark. Now zoom in on that bleached out skeleton, and check this out. There are thousands, actually millions, of blood-red worms wriggling all over it, drilled straight into every bone. From far away, it honestly looks like the skeleton grew hair made of blood. And here's the freaky part. These worms don't even have a mouth. No stomach, no butt either. Like, this thing is basically hollow inside. And yet, it can eat through an entire whale skeleton, tons and tons of bone, until there's nothing left in just a few years. No mouth, so how's it eating? Stick with me, because the answer is way weirder than you think. This thing's actual name is Osedax, but everybody calls it something way creepier: the zombie worm. Yeah, literally a zombie. Okay, so the family situation with this worm is straight up soap opera material. The female's the one running the show. Big, tough, she plants herself in the bone and just eats there for the rest of her life. Never has to go anywhere. The male, though, man, rough life. He's tiny, like 100 times smaller than her, and he spends his whole existence living inside her body. It's basically a reverse harem. One female can have hundreds of these tiny husbands packed inside her, and their only job is making sperm. That's it. No job, no food runs, nothing. Kind of depressing when you think about it. And these worms are picky eaters, like pickier than your fussiest relative at Thanksgiving. They won't touch fresh meat at all. They wait until a whale carcass has rotted all the way down to bare bone before they even show up to do their thing. So how do you eat with no mouth? Here's the trick. They've got this root system, kind of like a bone drill, if you want to call it that. Works just like plant roots pulling water from soil, except these are drilling straight into whale bone to pull out fat and collagen. And here's the funniest twist. Inside those roots, there's a whole army of bacteria that this worm basically has on payroll. Osedax is so lazy, it doesn't even digest its own food. It just lets millions of bacteria live inside it, and those bacteria pump out acid that breaks the bone down into tiny bits, while the worm just chills and soaks it up through its skin. Basically, it's not eating. It's letting the bacteria do all the work and just cashing in. Those red feathery bits sticking out of the bone, that looks super gross. That's its combo breathing tube/antenna, used for grabbing oxygen and pulling in extra nutrients from the water. And here's the question that stumped scientists for years. A creature with no mouth, no stomach, no guts, not even a butt. Basically, just an empty bag with roots. How is this thing tearing through an entire whale skeleton that's hard enough to survive for centuries on the ocean floor? By all logic, something missing that much basic equipment should be totally useless. But nope. Osedax is one of the best scavengers in the whole ocean, clearing out a whole skeleton in just a few years. This whole thing had scientists breaking out microscopes, going cell by cell, just to figure out what was going on. And here's the answer, the craziest part of all. Osedax basically outsourced its entire digestive system to a type of bacteria called Oceanospirillales. These guys live right inside the worm's root tissue and pump out enzymes that break down the collagen and fat in the bone into tiny molecules. Osedax just soaks it all up through its skin. No chewing, no swallowing, no digesting. Nothing. Basically, Osedax isn't eating the bone. It's dissolving it from the inside out, like it's got its own tiny chemical plant doing all the dirty work for it. And those tiny husbands living inside their wife. That's actually a genius survival move. Out in the deep ocean, whale carcasses are super rare, and finding a mate out there is basically like winning the lottery. So instead of going out and searching, the female just keeps a whole squad of husbands on standby, ready to go whenever she needs them. No risk of ever being alone. And every time one of these massive whales dies and sinks all the way down, scientists call it a whale fall. That skeleton turns into this whole oasis of life in the middle of nowhere, feeding hundreds of thousands of Osedax for decades, until every last piece of bone is completely dissolved into the deep sea. When you really stop and think about it, a creature with no mouth, no stomach, basically nothing, turns out to be one of the most efficient cleanup crews on the entire planet. Nature really does find a way to blow your mind every time. And that's the story of the eternal flesh eater, one of the weirdest creatures in the whole ocean. If you enjoyed this, hit like, subscribe to Wild Area so you don't miss the next crazy wild fact, and share it with your friends. And hey, if there's some weird animal you want Wild Area to cover next, drop it in the comments. Who knows? Your idea might be the next video.